Okay, this video is going to focus on the Newline Cast, which is going to be the screen sharing from web-enabled devices to your Newline RS Plus board. So there are a couple of ways that you can get to the screen sharing. The first and easiest way is if you have it set up as your input where it says screen sharing. That's going to be the Newline Cast. Second way that you can get to it is by opening up your gadgets, and you're going to look for the Newline Cast gadget. Either of those ways will get you to the cast. I'm going to go through the input for screen sharing. This is going to open up. Now, there's two types of screen sharing that you can do, moderated and unmoderated. And we're going to showcase both of those in this video so that you can see a little bit of it. Easiest thing to do is if you have any web-enabled device, whether it's a phone, tablet, iPad, you can go to displaynote.com/join. There is also pushed out an iPad app on all iPads, as well as a Chrome app for student Chromebooks. So they're going to go to displaynote.com join, and you're going to have your session ID. And the session ID is going to be unique for each session, each board. And you don't want to send this out early or the night before or the week before, because every time you get a session, it gives you a new number. Right, and so you do that to make sure that you're not using an old session and only people are supposed to be in it are in it. Now, down here in settings, we're going to talk about session management, and there's two ways that you can operate. You have moderator mode, which you either turn it on or off, and floating ID. A floating ID is going to be your session ID that will always stay up. So if you have a student that comes in late and they know your process of go to displaynote.com join, they can just put the board number in and they can join your session without seeing this main screen. So I like to keep the floating ID on, and we're going to start in moderator mode. It's important to note, if you change your mode, if I change from moderator to unmoderated, it'll create a new session. It kicks everybody out because you're getting a brand new session. And we're going to talk about the pros and cons of each. When you're in moderator mode, the pros are that you have to invite participants to share their screen, to share their content. You also, when you're in moderator mode, have to have the ability to do grid view, which is where you can have up to 4 different screens presenting at the same time. Those are the two things that you get with moderator mode. Where you don't want to use moderator mode is in the whiteboard sharing. We'll talk about that when we get to that piece of it, because students can annotate and work with you, but they cannot do so if they're in moderator mode. Excuse me. So we're in moderator mode. And I'm going to now join, and this will give you where your connections are. That'll give you the attendees that have connected to your board. So I'm going to join right now, and I'm going to put the session ID in, and I'm already on my student Chromebook. This put the session ID in. I'm going to put my name in as Burke. You're going to talk to your students, make sure that they know to put in their proper name. They're not putting in nicknames, things like that. If you have 2 Burks in your class, you might do first name, last initial. You can come up with your process. Now, I'm also going to go to the Display Note app on my phone to get a second person in here. And I'm going to show you that one. And so I am going to connect there as well. And now you can see we've got 2 of these devices that are connected. So now one of the things that I can do now that I'm connected in here is if I'm going to shrink this down just a little bit to kind of show you the screen here for what they've got. Now, when moderator mode is enabled, I can only present my screen when I'm invited from the main display. And so when I go up to the main display and you as a teacher want to invite somebody, if I click on that person's name, I can hit invite to present, and that is going to then open up so that I now on my Chromebook see that I've been invited to present and I can share my screen. So I'm going to make this a little bit larger so you can see that. So now I can go in and share my screen. And as a student, I go share my screen. I click the screen that I want to share. And this is going to, I always recommend to do every screen, entire screen, because then if you change tabs, it'll show up. So I can go into share. It says that I'm sharing my screen. I can go to another tab where I've got my slideshow. I can go into view my slideshow, and right from my seat, I could present my slideshow of what is the line, above the line, below the line. Now, one of the things that you notice when we've got this if I go back to my tab here, is down at the bottom corner, you can see the session ID is still present on the board. So if you look down here on the screen, you can see the session ID. When I'm done, I hit stop presenting, and I've stopped presenting my screen. Now, another cool feature is I can, if I go into grid mode, grid view, as the teacher, I can have 4 devices on the screen. So I'm going to invite Burke to present, and it knows that we've already got 2, so I'm also going to invite Burke's phone to present. And I can go in, and my desktop is going to share again. So I'm going to go back in. This is going to be my slideshow. And so I've got my slideshow that is presenting, so that I've got that onto the screen so you can see that piece of it. And we'll open this up so you can see a little bit better. There's Burke's screen is actually presenting on the one side, and then on the opposite side, I'm going to attack this, and I'm going to start presenting through the Display Note app. And you will see, once this comes up, I will get my Display Note presenting. All right, let me get this other one presenting here on the phone. All right. I closed it out by accident, so I gotta get back in here. All right. Oh, and I spelled it wrong. Got Harry here, but I'm gonna invite to present. Now, on my phone, I'm going to start the broadcast, and there it is. So now I've got the 2. Now, when you are presenting as a phone, if you've got a phone that you're presenting, one thing that I can do, and I'm just going to pause my share to get set up here, is I'm going to open up a photo, and I'll show you guys a quick photo here. So what we can do is I'm in the Display Note app, and I'm resuming my sharing. So whatever I've got on my iPad or my iPhone or my web device is going to show up on that other side. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go in to my photos or my camera, and I can show something. Let's say I'm going to take a picture. So I've taken a picture with my Chromebook. Now, one thing that's neat with this, so I've got a picture with my Chromebook that I'm showing. When you're using a tablet or a phone, if you hold your orientation a different direction, depending on how you've taken your picture, it will show up a little differently for you, right? So you can definitely see what it is that you're trying to get to. Now, if I set, so you can, anything I want to share. So if I go back to no Display Note, I can also stop sharing. Another cool thing that you can do is you can share items to a group folder. So I'm going to add an item. I'm going to add a photo to our shared resource. And I am going to stop sharing. I'm going to stop my broadcast there. I'm also going to stop presenting on this one for the teacher so that you can see here what this is going to look like for what we've got for our shared resources. So now, with our stuff here, what we've done is I can look at on Burke's phone, Burke shared items with this. So I can go in and look at the shared items that Burke put into there. And so I shared a file, and what I can do is maybe it's a file or something that we wanted to get. I can download this to my Chromebook from a user that's being connected. And this right here, you guys can see, is a picture of, we went bike riding last night trying to get a little exercise. It started to rain on us. It's a forced smile for my wife when we're soaking wet coming back from riding bikes in the rain. So I got a little hot water, but thought I'd just share that with the class so that you guys could see that. You also have on your, as the teacher, when you get up to the main board, and I'm going to zoom this up a little bit so that you can see this in your casting, you also have on the side here shared items so the teacher can see what are the shared items as well. And if you would like to remove that shared item, if it's something that you no longer want, I can remove that so that it's no longer part of the shared resources that you've got for the students. And so you definitely want to have some conversations if you're going to have them sharing things. What can they share? What are the appropriate things to share? But it's a great way to quickly get resources that students can get for it. Now that's going to be your moderator mode. Now you do have, if you go into the whiteboard, you do have the ability to do the whiteboard with the cast. There's a little bit better way if you're just going to show the whiteboard on the screen with the cast session. But what you can't have is when you're in this whiteboard session, students cannot do any kind of annotating with you if you. I'm going to exit out of the shared. Oh no, I'm going to go back in here to this, and we're going to get that one out of there. There are no shared items for us. So let's do this. I'm going to rejoin the session here to get back in. And now I am connected, and it is a whiteboard. The whiteboard is taking place, but I don't have the ability as a student to do anything with the whiteboard. Like all of my pen tools and annotations are all disabled because you're in moderator mode. So you have no interactivity in moderator mode as a student or as a participant for the cast. So you definitely want to look at what are you trying to do with your sessions. Now, I'm going to go, and this is going to kick everybody out because I'm going to go back to the home. We're going to open up a session, so I'm going to go back to the home, and I'm going to go into my settings, and I'm going to go right in, and just to show you how to do this, I'm going to turn moderator mode off, and I'm going to disable that. When I disable moderator mode, it gives me a brand new session ID. It kicks everybody out, so everybody's lost from that session, but now I can go in and get connections. You'll also notice that I lost my grid view, so I no longer have grid view for our casting. So what I'm going to do now is rejoin this meeting, and let's get in here 151182, and I am going to connect again to show that I am connected. And now when I'm not in moderator mode, I can share my screen right away. Now, anybody, when you're in non-moderated, can take over the screen. So if I have a student that accidentally one kid's presenting, another kid goes to hit share my screen, it will take over to share the screen. So if I go in and I hit share my screen right now, it would go right in and it would share my screen. So then it's got my screen right there. Now, I can stop my presenting so that I can get out of it. But that when you're not in moderated mode, people could come in and get it. Now, why this is good? I'm going to go back into that whiteboard, and when I get into this whiteboard, you can now see that as I've got this whiteboard, I have with this casting, I have tools that as a student I can write on the board, I can erase, I can do things. So if you're trying to share something, you can have students that work with you interactively on the whiteboard as the teacher is working. So that would be why you might want to look at not having the cursor mode on. If you're going to have I'm going to make a little butterfly here because I'm in the teacher's room with the butterflies. Now this is all off of mousepad, so it's a terrible, terrible butterfly. A couple of eyes for them, but you could do lots of things with your interactive whiteboard in the cast mode if that's something that you would like to do. When I get done, I'm going to exit this session, or as the teacher, I can just end the session by either kicking everybody out or creating a new session. And let's go back here to this one. And if the easiest way to just get everybody out is I can just make a new session, kicks everybody out. Super easy. Go back to the home and double click to go to home, and we're good to go. Now I've got if I want to turn the cast off, I can close the casting and exit out of it. If I want to close the casting completely, we would open up our If I double click on the two icons, this brings up all of our apps that we've got open. So I can close out Newline Cast, and that will close it down when I get that, so it shuts the casting down. This is a good one that you want to get into, because as you open things, or what we call the widgets or the apps, much like your phone, the more widgets or apps you have open, the more space or slowdown it'll do for your board. So again, you have it's got the two icons, looks like a screen behind a screen. Double click on that, and that will bring up your whatever apps that you have open, and you can actually physically close those out, because just going back to home will still keep your cast open. You won't have it open, so they won't be able to actually cast to it, but